Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I will tell you things you have never heard before, or things you may have heard but misunderstood or misheard. In the quiet mountains of Bulgaria, a blind woman once claimed to see further than any human eye could ever reach into the tangled threads of the future itself. Her name was Vanga Dimitrova, but the world would come to know her as Baba Vanga, the Nostradamus of the Balkans. The year was 1911. In the small Macedonian town of Strumica, under the Ottoman Empire's waning shadow, a child was born who would, decades later, become one of the most enigmatic figures of the 20th century. Vanga Dimitrova came into the world in an era of turbulence, wars, collapsing empires, and shifting borders. But it was an accident, not politics, that would set the course of her life into the realm of legend. When she was just a young girl, a violent storm swept across the countryside. The wind tore through the fields like a living beast. Vanga, trying to shield herself, was caught in a sudden, powerful gust. Dust and debris blinded her, leaving her permanently sightless. Yet, as her physical vision faded, something else awakened. Something she would later describe as the ability to see events far beyond the present moment. Her early years after the accident were marked by an eerie calmness. She began speaking of things she could not possibly know, details about neighbors' health, the fate of relatives fighting in distant wars, and even predictions of upcoming events in the village. People whispered. Some said she had been chosen by God. Others claimed her mind had fractured from trauma. But in time, the whispers grew into a movement. Pilgrims traveled miles to seek her words. As decades passed, Baba Vanga's predictions stretched beyond her village, beyond her country, to world wars, political assassinations, and disasters that had yet to come. Some were startlingly accurate, others remained vague enough to stir endless debate. And the more the world listened, the more a chilling question echoed. Was she truly a prophet, or just a master of coincidence? By the mid-20th century, Baba Vanga's modest home had transformed into something akin to a spiritual crossroads. Pilgrims arrived on foot, by bus, and even on horseback, forming long lines that snaked down the dusty road to her door. Some carried offerings of bread, flowers, or coins. Others carried nothing but desperation, the kind that etched lines deep into their faces. She spoke of the death of Stalin in 1953, the Kursk submarine disaster, the breakup of the Soviet Union, the Chernobyl catastrophe. Some accounts claim she even foretold the September 11th attacks, describing two steel birds striking the American brothers. In the late 1980s and early 90s, political leaders sought her counsel in secret, wary of public ridicule but hungry for an edge in uncertain times. Generals, presidents, and ministers sat at her table, their voices low, their questions carefully chosen. Sometimes she gave them cryptic advice. Other times, she simply smiled and said, "It will be as it has been written." Yet perhaps the most chilling moments came when her predictions touched on the far future, centuries ahead. She spoke of climate chaos, oceans swallowing cities, and a time when humans would leave Earth altogether. There will come a day, she said, when shadows will walk among men and the sun will weep for the earth. Whether poetic metaphor or ominous foresight, no one could be sure, but the imagery lingered, and always that same question remained. Was she a genuine messenger, a gifted intuitive, or just a masterful storyteller shaped by the fears and hopes of her time? By the final decade of her life, Baba Vanga had become both a national treasure and a global enigma. Journalists from across the world came to her small Bulgarian village, their cameras eager to capture the woman who claimed to see beyond the veil of time. She greeted them with the same quiet composure she showed to farmers and factory workers. It was during these years that her most controversial prophecies began to emerge, predictions that seemed to stretch far beyond the lifetime of anyone listening. She spoke of 2023 as a year of great environmental upheaval, with rivers turning dry and a shadow across the sun. She foretold a future where Europe's political map would be redrawn and entire populations would shift like waves in a storm. One of her most startling claims was the prediction of a celestial message in the mid-21st century, a signal from beyond Earth, decipherable only by a united human effort. To some, this was a thrilling vision of first contact. To others, a poetic way of warning about the need for global unity. Then there were her prophecies that bordered on the apocalyptic. She spoke of a great light in the sky that would burn brighter than the sun, of cities drowned in silence and seas boiling as if alive. These images, vivid and terrifying, gave fuel to both believers and skeptics. Were these metaphors for nuclear war, for climate collapse, or something far stranger? Scientists, intrigued yet cautious, began studying her words. Linguists analyzed patterns in her speech, searching for psychological cues. Historians cross-referenced her predictions with past events, weighing coincidence against credibility. Psychologists explored the possibility of extraordinary intuition, while others dismissed her as a master of cold reading and human observation. Still, those who had sat across from her table insisted there was something unexplainable about her presence. They spoke of how she would sometimes pause mid-sentence, her blind eyes seeming to focus on something invisible, her voice dropping to a whisper, as if speaking to someone they couldn't see. And yet, Vanga herself never claimed to control her visions. She described them as if they were thrust upon her, sudden floods of images, sounds, and sensations. "I am only the messenger," she would say. "The message is not mine." When Baba Vanga passed away in August 1996, thousands came to pay their respects. Her funeral was not only a farewell to a woman, but to an era of mystery that seemed tied to her very presence. Yet her voice did not fade with her death. Her prophecies, meticulously recorded by followers and journalists, continued to ripple through the years like a stone dropped in still water. Some of her predictions have been claimed as fulfilled. The Kursk submarine disaster in 2000, the September 11th attacks, and even the rise of certain global powers. Others remain shrouded in the future, waiting for time to catch up. Among them, a cure for cancer in the 21st century, the unification of humanity under a single global government, and contact with intelligent extraterrestrial life before the year 2300. For believers, these are milestones on a cosmic roadmap she somehow glimpsed decades in advance. For skeptics, they are vague riddles, easily bent to fit events after they happen. But both sides agree on one thing: the cultural impact of her visions is undeniable. Her name appears in documentaries, conspiracy forums, books, and viral internet videos. Standing in her old village today, one might hear the wind through the trees and imagine her voice, calm and certain, offering answers that only lead to deeper questions. Perhaps the truth about Baba Vanga is not in whether her visions were real, but in the way they remind us that the future is not just a date on the calendar. It is a story still being written. And if you wish to journey with us into more untold stories, subscribe and turn on the notifications because the next mystery may already be here.